G'day guys, Dave here,
Jess here.
and we're next stop touring. We've just gotten back from our broken lap halfway around Australia. We made it all the way from Perth to Brisbane. This video is just going to be a summary of our trip and break down some costs and how far we went, our favourite stays, and then we're going to answer some questions from you guys. So yeah, let's get into it. Hopefully this helps you plan some of your lap. Quick overview of our trip. It was 47 nights on the road. We left mid-June and we got back at the end of July. We drove about 11,000 Ks as far as my estimates can do. Maybe more, but that's just the distance between campsites. And in total, it cost us $7,830.65. What?
You didn't think you could round that figure?
No. Alright, so to break down those costs, we'll start with our largest expense, which was fuel. So 38% of that expense, or $3,000, went to fuel. That roughly works out to about 18.7 litres per 100 kilometres. So at the time we didn't have a rooftop tent on the roof, and we drove, I want to say, decently efficiently.
I did.
Well, maybe Jess did. But basically, patrols, even with the 3 litre, are not efficient at all. At all. So, going around as well, June, July, fuel, or diesel at least, wasn't as expensive as it is now. And the most we paid for a tank was $2 a litre at the Aminci Roadhouse on the Gibb River Road. And then the most expensive that we saw was $2.35 on Fraser Island.
Because we had our bingo going, and one of the squares on bingo was diesel over $3 per litre, and we never saw it.
Never got
Neither
crossed.
of us ticked it off.
$2.35 was the most expensive. And luckily we got away with $2. I think at the top of Cape York, $2.05 was the peak. So yeah, roundabout there was the most expensive.
Gibb and Cape York and Fraser Island were sort of the 3 more remote areas that we went to where fuel was that fair bit more expensive.
Yeah. And then our longest stretch that we drove, can you guess?
In one day.
Yeah, how far do you think we drove in one day? Our biggest day of driving.
I actually
in kilometres.
I think it was our first day when we drove to Big Bell.
You reckon it was our first day
Yeah,
at Big
I reckon
Bell?
it was Big Bell.
Perth to Big Bell?
Yeah, that's what I reckon.
Yeah, final answer?
Final answer.
And how many kilometres?
900.
900 Ks.
800.
800 Ks?
Perth to Big Bell, 800
Final
Ks.
answer?
Sure.
It was actually Big Bell to Carragini.
Oh,
So the day after.
When we told you about this yesterday, I said it was one of those two.
Yeah, Big Bell to Carragini, and it was 729 kilometres.
I was in the ballpark.
Yeah. So it's not that massive of a day. It felt like a long day.
For us, the reason we did that was those first 2 days we really just wanted to send it and get as far away from home as possible, because we were on such a tight time frame, and we figured we could come back to all those places in between. So let's just get as far as we can and explore the rest of the country that we couldn't see, and explore our own backyard another time.
Alright, moving on to the next largest expense. What do you reckon it was after fuel? What do we spend the most money on?
Accommodation.
Our next largest expense was in fact vehicle maintenance and accessories. So after $3,000 spent on fuel, we spent $1,700 on vehicle maintenance. So for us, that was 20% of our budget, and that went to one service in Cairns and the fitting of a winch which was quite expensive because we bought and had a winch fitted as well in Cairns.
Yeah, it's the winch
before we
price.
did Cape. Yeah, before we went to Fraser, we bought some more recovery gear. I think that's everything for vehicle accessories. Oh, we also blew a rear shock doing the telly trap.
And a tyre.
And a tyre, yeah. So we replaced the shocks in Mackay, which was a $400 from ARB for 2 OME rear shocks.
Oh yeah, and we had to change the fuel filter on the side of the road in Kununurra, but luckily we did bring one with us, so that's not included in the cost.
Yeah, no Perth costs have been included in this, otherwise the figure would be extortion.
Yeah, spent a fair bit getting the car ready for the trip.
Yeah, so for vehicle maintenance accessories, the breakdown was generally $600 for a service and winch fitting, $500 for the winch, $400 for some shocks from ARB, and then in there was like some recovery gear, a couple car washes, particularly when we got near the beach, because you don't want to leave salt on your rig. And that left vehicle maintenance being our second largest expense. Our guesses for third?
Accommodation? I'm just going to keep saying
Accommodation.
it.
Third largest expense was food and drink, coming in at $1,600. So very, very close to vehicle maintenance.
How much of that was drink?
Well, we cooked a lot, as you would have seen through our videos, almost every night. But then when we stopped in towns as well, we did like to get some takeaway lunch, and I think we got 3 or 4 takeaway dinners through the whole time, or dinners out, mainly when we're in the big cities. And so that meant that our total grocery spend was $716 across 47 nights. But our total takeaway and eating out expense crept up and was $620.
Oh my
so
god.
very, very close.
Wow.
Very, very close. And then dwarfed by both of those costs was our drinks, which came in at $235. So really relatively, for a month and a half, $200 on drinks isn't that bad at all. Alright, so moving on from food and drink, we get to Jess's favourite segment, accommodation. So in total, our accommodation cost us $1,063.89. Our 47 night breakdown, we spent the most time at free camps, 15 nights, which of course cost us nothing, and we spent 11 nights with family in Mackay, Fraser Island and Brisbane, which again, luckily for us, didn't cost us anything. After that, we spent 7 nights at national parks and private camps each, and national parks and private camps were actually pretty close in expense. So the 7 nights at private camps cost us $250, and the 7 nights at national parks cost us $180. So that meant national parks came to an average of about $26 a night, while private camps came to about $35. The most expensive private camp we stayed at was Home Valley Station, and that's because we got a fantastic spot right on the bank of the Pentecost River, overlooking the river, overlooking the mountain range. It was fantastic, but it did set us back $76 a night. But we only stayed there one night. It was a really great night, and I'd definitely stay there again. They've got fantastic amenities and everything. They do provide you, well, they do treat you very well there. And then national parks were blown out of proportion because they're so expensive to stay at in WA.
Yeah.
So for 2 people, a national park camp is $34 a night, which is really expensive. Versus in the Northern Territory, where your average national park
it's like $6.
is like $6 for 2 people. So it's just shocking, you know. And in Queensland, I think they're about 14. Yeah, so after private camps and national parks, we spent 4 nights in hotels. That was mostly because I like to have a good shower, and we needed a good place to set up everything and edit these videos for you guys.
Yeah.
So this being our first trip, we kind of took off without enough electronics, in terms of we didn't have solar, we didn't have big enough battery capacity until about Catherine, when we bought a second deep cycle, and our inverter wasn't fantastic.
Yeah, where did that break?
Oh, I don't even remember. Regarding that, it was really difficult to edit in the car while we were driving on gravel, and really difficult to charge things in the car as well.
it depended like how firm the connection was. So things like phones and laptops actually were all right to charge, but the drone batteries would just sort of sit in a very
were pretty useless.
loose casing, couldn't charge while driving.
So we made the decision to spend 4 nights in hotels just to stay up late, smash out some videos. Those hotel stays though cost us $546, or an average of $136 per night, which is actually more than half of our budget. I think it's about 51 or 52%
our accommodation budget.
Of our accommodation spend. So when you're going around, try not to stay in hotels, it costs you a lot. So then after hotels, we stayed 3 nights in caravan parks with a total spend of $92, or on average $30.80. I think the 3 caravan parks we stayed at were 80 Mile Beach Caravan Park, Normanton Caravan Park, and Weeper. 80 Mile Beach was a fantastic location and had good amenities and stuff, as was Weeper. Like, we were 20 meters from the ocean in Weeper.
Normanton was a little average, and the service was a bit like, took us an hour to wait for somebody to come and let us get a spot.
Normanton was a bit beneath average.
But no, like, caravan parks aren't really our thing, but for caravan parks, 80 Mile Beach and Weeper were both absolutely spectacular.
So in total, over 47 nights, we spent an average of $22.64 on accommodation per night, which is pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, and without those 4 nights in hotels, it would have been about $11. So
it's like $80 a week. It's much cheaper than renting.
Yeah, so it can be pretty cheap if you want to make it. Now, in terms of where we stayed, where did we spend the most time, Jess?
In one camp.
At one camp. One location.
Oh, Fraser, obviously.
Yeah, we spent 6 days on Fraser Island and then 3 days in Brisbane. And then nowhere else around Australia did we stay more than 2 nights.
That's because we were with my family in Fraser and Brisbane though, and they're more settled down.
So we met up with Jess's parents there and had a relax on the beach, which was quite nice. Accommodation wise, what was your favourite camp?
Burrum Coast National Park.
Burrum Coast, yeah, that was beautiful.
The national park is big and there are 4 different areas in it that all have different names. I think the one we stayed in was called Kilcooney, but I will write it here. Yeah, it was just stunning. We stayed right on the beach, and I think probably because I've never seen the sun rise over the ocean before, living in Western Australia, so that was just a spectacular experience getting to see that.
Sunrise over the ocean is very cool. Any honourable mentions from you?
Honourable mentions? Obviously Albert Tog near Karajini in Western Australia is
Albert
fantastic.
Tognalini rest area. Or lookout. Albert Tognalini lookout. Literally on the top of a hill overlooking just tabletop hills for miles and spinifex of red dirt.
Is that your favourite?
No.
What was your favourite?
So my favourite camp in our whole trip was Mistake Creek on the Telegraph Track.
Yeah.
Which is just a beautiful campsite in the middle of the forest with a pristine, clear brook or creek running through it. That was just fantastic to swim in, and as picturesque as you could get. And when we got there, the campsite previous was just packed.
And all of them were packed.
Yeah, but Mistake Creek was empty.
It was just us.
Completely empty.
Just us.
Yeah. So that was fantastic. That was my favourite camp. And then my honourable mentions go out to Runga Point at the top of the Cape, which was beautiful as well.
That was really similar to Burrum Coast, where you were just right on the beach there.
You look out, islands, blue tropical water, rainforest behind you. It was fantastic. We just got some bad weather, unfortunately, with some rain, but otherwise that was a great camp. And then also Burrum Coast, as Jess said, was great, and Albert Tognalini lookout, just a fantastic Pilbara camp.
Another honourable mention is In the Rocks. It's a free camp. It's just, you can find it on Wiki Camps. It's not a super official one, like we missed the turn off and had to turn around and come back to it, but it was just a really beautiful spot with these really smooth orange rocks. Got some awesome drone shots there as well.
The sunset was fantastic there. Alright, so do you have any least favourite camps? Places you wouldn't go back?
Normanton Caravan Park.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
No, wasn't a fan of that.
Just nothing special there, really. Normanton as a place was nice though, especially as like a kind of bit of civilization on the Gulf, which is so remote.
Was that where the Purple Pub was?
Yeah, the Purple Pub, which was good fun.
Nice.
We had a nice dinner out there.
Yeah. We stayed in a camp called Gravel Pit or something in the NT, and we just ran into some interesting people and ended up moving on that same night. It was so bad to a different. I think we just stayed at a rest stop after that, you know, with all the caravans and stuff. But yeah, that was definitely the worst camp. That was just because of the people. It was also a gravel pit. It was nothing special.
So what I have written down here, my least favourite camp was actually the camp we wound up at later that night, which was a roadside stop out of Mataranka. It was just chock-a-block full. There was no spots for us, which is kind of our fault because we got in late. But we wound up camping kind of next to the toilets in between two caravans with like barely enough room for our awning tent. Last but not least, we've got miscellaneous costs where we spent about $500 on a number of things. So laundry and clothes, we spent $220, and then we spent $123 on 2 ferries for our car. So one of them was the Daintree River Ferry, which was $23, and one of them was the Jardine River Ferry, which was $100.
We also took the ferry to Fraser.
But
luckily we didn't have to pay for that one.
Jess's parents shouted that, so that was very nice for them. Thank you.
But that one's expensive. I think that one's about $200.
Yeah, just generally shipping your car around is expensive.
Yeah.
Then after that, we spent $107 on communication. So prior to this, we bought a sat phone, and then we bought 3 months worth of credit for it for the most remote sections we were traveling in, and never had to use it out of necessity, but it was good to keep in contact with our family and stuff when we were on the Gib, where there's almost no reception the whole way.
Yeah, we did have a couple campsites though where we tried to use it and just couldn't because we were too deep in the trees.
No, if you can see a tree, your sat phone won't get reception.
So yeah, keep it in mind, but it can be useful, just don't rely on it as your only way of communicating with people.
Yeah. And then the rest of our communications budget went to postcards, which is a much slower form of communication, but we sent a couple of them off to our family back in Perth and stuff, and yeah, that was nice to do. Then also we spent $44 on a WA Parks Pass, which I think was 2 weeks long. It's probably about time we got an annual Parks Pass.
Definitely time to get an annual one.
Just get an annual one. And then the stickers on the side of the car cost $33. Get your sticker collection up. So that brings our cost to a close. Total spend of $7,800 for the trip. And yeah, mostly on diesel. So get a more efficient car and you'll save a lot of money. Anyway, let's move on to some questions from you guys. So we haven't prepared answers or anything. We're just going to answer these right on the spot. One question we got was on the things we do to travel sustainably and be environmentally friendly as we travel.
Obviously, something that's really important for everyone to be doing is taking your rubbish with you. Don't leave it behind, leave the places you found it. In terms of traveling sustainably otherwise, getting a more efficient car is one thing.
Well, we've got some upgrades coming to the car that will hopefully increase efficiency. New intercooler, a bit of an engine tune, that sort of thing. We've also gotten solar panels since the trip, which definitely help with charging things, so you don't have to run generators or the car. Not that we ever really did to charge batteries, but it's a consideration.
Yeah, and honestly, they're not even that expensive, so they're definitely a good investment.
Yeah, things like our homemade solar screen in the back, that reflects off a bit of heat and definitely noticeably keeps the back of the car about 6 degrees colder than the front. And that means we save on aircon, which saves on fuel consumption. And also, our fridge uses a lot less power, doesn't have to work as hard being in the back to keep around 4 degrees where we like it. So we actually made these ourselves just out of some reflective foam we bought from Clark Rubber. Another question we got was the best road trip albums. We listened to a lot of Beatles.
A lot of Beatles. Somebody was going through a phase.
Yeah. I think our most listened to album for the trip was Let It Be.
Followed by
Back to Black by Amy Winehouse.
Oh, true, yeah.
So yeah, Let It Be and Back to Black are road trip albums through and through.
Our general road trip album is actually Currents by Tame Impala, but we mostly listen to that when we go down south.
Yeah, lots of Tame Impala as well. So another question we got asked was, what nationality of people did you see up there? Because, you know, the sort of stereotype as a whole bunch of European backpackers and things. But with COVID, how's that going? So I would say we mostly saw Aussies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably different pre-COVID and hopefully post-COVID.
Yeah.
But in our time traveling, because it was during all of the peak of COVID and everything, pretty much just Aussies. Like
almost everyone we met was from Queensland or from WA. Just in general, what were your favourite places, attractions, things you loved?
Cape York, best bit of the trip, absolutely. Yeah. It was like the best of both worlds because we got to be doing awesome stuff all day while being in awesome scenery. Normally you just get one or the other, but yeah, that was epic.
Yeah, totally agree with you. The telly track, the tip, it was just fantastic. Rainforest jungle, you feel totally safe, the creeks are beautiful. It's just an island paradise, really up there.
And I think Fraser Island as well would have been a really similar experience if we had have gone more to the north end and done a lot more of the four-wheel drivey stuff. But we did have a Tiguan with us, so we didn't do too much of that. But yeah, even with what we did, awesome, definitely.
Mataranka hot springs were really good.
Yeah,
I like them
Mataranka's
quite
good
a lot.
Too, in the Northern Territory.
Yeah, and then like all the gorges on the Gib, and they were highlights. Karajini, of course. Yeah.
Just gotta see it all.
Yeah, pretty much. Got to see the whole country. So that leads us into places we missed.
The seed for thought that our trip actually started with was Territory Day, and it's the one day that it's legal to buy and set off your own fireworks. And I've been wanting to go for years, but we never actually made it to Darwin with all the COVID stuff. So that was definitely a disappointment for me. But I will absolutely be back for Territory Day one year.
The one thing that I really felt we lacked, even though I know we didn't get to go to Darwin and stuff, was actually Cape Leveque up near Broome. I would have loved to go up Cape Leveque, camp right at the top there with all that beautiful red sand and Kimberley Coast. I think it's just a fantastic spot. Really disappointed that we didn't have the time to get up there. What else do you think we did well?
Good use of zip ties and duct tape.
I think things that came really in handy were the tools we brought and the fuel filter. We were hesitant on the fuel filter because they're really expensive to get a proper Nissan one.
For these cars?
It was the one thing that actually broke on the car and we needed to replace, along with the shocks, I suppose. The solar screen as well, big shout out to that. That was really good. Our tyres and rims, we just got them before we left. Nitto Terra grapplers in 33s. These were 285/75 on 16-inch rims, and we came from 315/70 on 16-inch. So both 33s, but these were a bit thinner profile, but definitely had a lot more tread and were a really good tyre in terms of everything off-road and general traction on-road, I thought. We did crack the sidewall on one, but that was the wheel that the shock blew, and we were doing stupid stuff, going way too fast and coming down on our wheels very hard.
It was just on the telly track, so it was a lot of very four-wheel drivey stuff.
Yeah, and that Peninsula Development Road is very rough, corrugation-wise, and washout-wise actually as well. The rear bar was awesome, generally. It stayed on, took the tyre weight off the back of the door, which already has a big crack in it.
We just have an MCC rear bar, which is a bit of a cheapy one, but it's actually worked really
absolutely
well for us.
Cheap.
It doesn't fit quite right, but in terms of function, it's been great.
And then the weird good thing was a UHF. Everyone has one. Everyone's always chatting to each other. It's really helpful overtaking trucks and caravans and stuff. And just knowing that everything's okay with people as well when they're stopped on the side of the road and things. What would you do differently?
Wouldn't sleep in the back of the car.
No, I wouldn't sleep in the back of the car again either.
That setup in the back of the car probably ended up costing us more than the rooftop tent just in parts, and it took so much time to set up as well. So absolutely not worth doing.
Yeah.
Just get a rooftop tent. I mean, if you have a troopy or something, go for it, but not in a patrol.
Yeah, we've since got a rooftop tent, so our camp setup takes 30 seconds and we're ready. I think it was a great investment. Obviously, the other thing is solar that we just picked up the other day. So you can stay in a spot for more than 2 days and keep everything well charged.
Oh, we put spotlights on the side of the car to sort of go under our awning as a just general living light, and
we put tiny spotlights.
Too bright.
Yeah, and they were just
way too bright.
Far too
and
bright.
And too much power draw as well.
And LED strip works really well.
Yeah.
And then also a 2-burner stove.
Yeah, that was our big
Yeah.
one, wasn't it?
We've got one of them as well since, and that was just so frustrating.
Yeah, you can't cook anything with rice or pasta on a 1-burner stove.
Get a 2-burner stove, that was well worth it.
Zombie apocalypse?
Yeah, zombie apocalypse. So this was a fun thought experiment. How far could we get from Perth in the event of a zombie outbreak? And how long could we survive for?
With everything that's stocked in the car.
With everything, stocked and ready to go. So with a little bit of calculation.
Wow, you've actually done research on this. I was going to go ahead and say, well, we did Cape York for 9 days on a full grocery shop, but you can't keep fresh food much longer than that. We don't have a freezer. So that's what I was thinking, but let's see what Zay's calculations say.
So our range on a full tank, including jerry cans, is about 900 Ks. So we could get 900 Ks out of Perth, which would take us a fair way, but then we'd be stuck.
Okay.
Yeah. And then based on our 9 days in Cape York using fresh food, I reckon if we packed tin food, we could survive as long as, we had enough tin spaghetti and baked beans to fit in the car, which I reckon you could fit probably 60 cans in the back, which would give us, 60 days more in the drawers?
No, because you can fill the boot up.
Oh, we just food.
Oh, we had the mattress and stuff in the boot as well. Okay, so 60 cans for 2 of us. That's like 30 days, so a month on canned food.
Yeah, so I reckon we could do about a month fully off grid if we had a water source.
Yeah, you can drink river water though. Just make sure our 900 Ks ends at a river.
Yeah, and without driving anywhere. The other question is, how many zombies can an ARB bull bar drive through? I don't want to find out. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. If you've got any more questions,
let us know.
Leave a comment, send a DM, whatever. We've got a bit more planned in the pipeline. We've done a few trips since, in between finishing the lap and filming this, and they'll be out shortly. But yeah, cheers.
Thank you everyone for following our journey as well, watching the lap, watching this video, and just giving us your support generally. So it's been awesome.
Yeah. Thanks. Here's to another lap in a couple of years.